My name's Mike. I've been working in money advice for around 10 years. The majority of that has been spent working with hard-to-reach groups, particularly those with mental health problems and mental illness. My experience over the last 10 years in both mental health and debt has really led me to understand how closely linked these two things are and how one can perpetuate the other. Mental health affects feelings, thoughts and behaviours. It can impact the way we cope with stress, our decision making and how we interact with others. We all have mental health, just like we all have physical health, and just like our physical health, our mental health can fluctuate over time. So the phrases mental health conditions, mental illness and mental problems, they're all phrases used to describe a group of diagnosable conditions that affect the way we can think, feel and behave. A diagnosis might include depression, anxiety. Less common diagnosis might include bipolar, schizophrenia or post-traumatic stress disorder. So the symptoms of mental illness will vary from person to person and condition to condition, but common symptoms might include prolonged periods of sadness or depression, extreme fears or anxieties or worries, highs and lows which are quite unpredictable. More serious conditions might have symptoms like delusions where you have unusual thoughts and behaviours. But it really does vary from person to person, and the way mental health can impact a person has such a huge range of effects. It's really hard to pin down to a couple of symptoms. The most common treatments for mental illness are medication and to a lesser extent talking therapies like counselling or cognitive behavioural therapy or group work. With medication, often psychiatric medication comes with its own side effects which can be just as difficult to deal with as the mental health conditions themselves. So some psychiatric medication might make people sleepy in the daytime or cloud their thought processes. So although medication can be used to treat a mental illness, it can come with its own problems. Mental capacity is not the same as mental illness. Mental capacity relates to a person's ability to make a specific decision at a specific time. A person with a mental illness may lack mental capacity, but this should never be assumed. The Mental Capacity Act 2005 states that a person is unable to make a decision for themselves if they are unable to A. Understand the information relevant to the decision, B. Retain that information, C. To use or weigh that information up as a part of the process of making the decision, or D. To communicate that decision, whether that's by talking, using sign language or in writing. So just because a person has a mental illness does not mean they lack mental capacity, even if they're making decisions that may seem unwise to others. Statistics say that 1 in 4 people with a mental illness are in debt. That figure rises to 1 in 3 if the condition is a more serious one, such as bipolar or schizophrenia, and compares to the average of 1 in 11 people in the UK that are in debt that don't have a mental illness. There is a connection between debt and mental illness. Poverty, financial difficulties, and debt can mean that people are struggling to satisfy their basic domestic needs. They may be spending less on their food bill, meaning they're not getting a good diet, which can affect your health. They may be sacrificing social activities as the gas bill has to be paid. Or they may not be attending medical appointments because of the cost of travel. For many people, poverty and debt can be alienating, distressing, and detrimental to their physical and mental health. Mental illness can also be a barrier to getting advice. Some people have anxiety or fear being scrutinised or judged about their situation. This can lead to people avoiding getting the right help for a long time. During this time, it can affect their health. They can be dealing with a lot of stress, which can mean they're not eating or sleeping properly, and that can cause more of a decline in their health. All this can combine to have a serious negative effect on their financial situation.